I asked the Rise of Kingdoms community to identify themselves as spenders in Rise of Kingdoms, and the results really surprised me. Join me for a breakdown of how we spend in Rise of Kingdoms. What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another Rise of Kingdoms gameplay episode from your very own Shappy Gaming. And today we are talking all about spending in Rise of Kingdoms. And no, I'm not necessarily encouraging it. But before we get into it, what's up, guys? My name's Shappy. I'm a sponsored Rise of Kingdoms content creator. And today we're going to dive into how we spend and why we spend, because I think there's a lot of really interesting psychology on this. I actually made a video somewhat similar where someone did a master's thesis talking all about why we spend in Rise of Kingdoms. I'll link that on the top right so you can go check that out. But this was really intriguing to me. So I asked the community, I said, what do you consider yourself, right? Partly this is to help me figure out what I should be tailoring my content to as a Rise of Kingdoms content creator. But the other part was really just curiosity, right? What does the demographic actually look like? We've all seen the videos about Rise of Kingdoms dying. I don't know that it really is. In fact, I'll probably make a video talking about how it's not. But it did start to get me thinking about how much Lilith is actually making from us. And I made that whole video on Crystal Tech. And everyone said, oh, well, Lilith isn't going to get rid of their cash cow. Crystal Tech makes them a ton of money. And sure, but it did start to get me wondering, well, is that really what's bringing in all of the money for them? Or are there other things? So first, I went ahead and I asked you guys, what do you consider yourself? And 27% of you said you're free to play, which is awesome. That means there's a really big majority of you that I'm not making a lot of content specifically for. I mean, some of my content on gems is useful, but I really want to start making some content specifically for the free-to-play. Let me know in the comment section. Is this something you guys would want? I know 12inch used to do it, but he's gone, and I haven't seen a lot of other creators really pick up on this. The other 47% of you is who I make most of my content for. Let's be honest. Low spenders and mid spenders, that's kind of what I consider myself to be. But I did do a little bit of an investigation today that actually said maybe I'm closer to a mid spender or a whale. I don't know. But 47% of you are low spenders and 22% of you consider yourself to be mid spenders. Now, one of the things that was interesting is there was a lot of people in the comments that were like, I don't really know whether I'm considered a low spender or a mid spender. And it doesn't seem like anyone has actually gone ahead and defined it. So I'm going to try and do that today. And there are 4% of you which are whales/Krakens. Now, there are not too many whales/Krakens that play Rise of Kingdoms, but there are quite a bit. And I think maybe I'm a little biased because most of the whales/Krakens that I see in 1960, right? But there are a bunch of whales and Krakens that are spending a lot of money that probably don't even watch Rise of Kingdoms YouTubers. So I decided, let's actually define this. So this is actually what ChatGPT gave me for a definition of what a spender is in a game. Free-to-play spends nothing at all. This means $0. And what this really means when we actually take a look inside of Rise of Kingdoms is you don't have Minamoto summoned at all. Because the way the game works is if you have purchased anything, you get Minamoto for free. So if you don't have any Minamoto heads, then you're a free-to-play. Fair enough. That makes sense. Don't think anyone's going to dispute that. Okay, but what about low spenders? This is where things get particularly interesting. Low spenders will occasionally buy small deals or season passes, and this is $1 to $20 a month or under $100 total. Now that under $100 total feels odd to me, if I'm going to be honest. I like the $1 to $20 a month because let's be honest, most of you guys who are playing Rise of Kingdoms are playing for years or have been playing for years. So let's stick with the $1 to $20 a month. Now, what's interesting to me is if I were going to spend $20 a month in Rise of Kingdoms, I'd kind of wonder what I'm going to be buying. I have a couple thoughts, and we'll be talking about that shortly. Now, a lot of you guys are probably just dolphins. Most of you who said you're probably low spenders would be considered to be dolphins. Now, we can scale this up or down. To be honest, low spender really may be closer to $1 to $50 a month, right? I think that's somewhat reasonable. And then dolphin would be 50 to 100 or 50 to 150. Rise of Kingdoms is an expensive game, right? What do you guys think in the comment section? Let me know. I really want to hear from you. Now, the next one is a whale. A whale is considered to be a heavy spender, buys nearly all offers, top-ups often, usually has all the best gears or characters. I think that's fair. And a Kraken is an extreme spender. They buy everything, maxes out all the upgrades. They spend $5,000 to $10,000 over time. The whale thing is interesting because I think for the most part, whales are probably from that 150 on. 150 to maybe 1,000, sometimes even more depending upon how big a whale you really are. But that feels realistic, right? Because the whales are the ones who are going to be maxing KVK tech every single time. That's around $400. So they're balling out for that. That makes sense. And the Krakens, you guys know who they are, right? Baba, the Mimi squad. Yeah, you guys get it. But it's this middle area that's particularly interesting to me. So let's say that a low spender only spends about, I don't know, $50 a month max. Now, KVK tech is probably going to be the exception here. So what this is going to mean is you're spending $50 a month averaged across the entire year. So that really means that you're spending $600 a year. So if you're spending $600 a year, that actually maths out pretty well. Just thinking about how that shakes out. Now, for most games, that's not really a low spender. That feels like a lot of money. But what this does call to mind is that this is actually a very expensive mobile game, which I knew. I've been playing it since 2019, but it is pretty expensive. And a dolphin, yeah, you guys know who you are. You probably buy all the KVK tech, and maybe you'll buy a Mountain Warfare. You probably buy all the recharge rewards. You know who you are. That's not a whale. You're not dropping goldies, but you are spending enough money, right? That's at 50 to 150 range. So I disagree with ChatGPT a little bit. But now I was wondering, okay, if you're in one of those three demographics, what are you actually buying? So let's pull up the game real quick because I was pondering this. How can one figure out how to spend that much money at once? Well, it's actually not that hard. So we have More Than Gems going on right now, which is a great event if you're going to go ahead and spend. But let's look at some of the easy things. Lucerne Scrolls. This is just about every 50 days. And in order to unlock it, you have to spend $5. Okay, there's $5. I think realistically, low spenders and mid spenders are probably going to buy this. It's one of the best bundles in the game. Sure. Well, every couple months, Lilith releases 2 new commanders, at least. Most people are probably going to buy that bundle and get the Writer of History. So that's another $10 right there between 2 Writer of History bundles. So that makes sense. Let's say you're buying 1 Writer of History, 1 Lucerne, there's $10. Well, Lilith actually has us all by the you-know-what because there's the 30-day gem supply. And the 30-day gem supply is a $10 bundle. And the problem with that is $10 bundles means you have to spend at least $10 a month, even as a low spender. So most low spenders are probably spending at least $20 to $25 a month. This is just like buying the bare minimum here. There's also Vanquisher bundles that show up occasionally if you end up creating a new piece of equipment. They're limited, but they exist. So that comes into play too. So you've got Vanquisher, you've got Lucerne, you've got the 30-day gem supply, and Lilith also just made it even harder on us. Because the new change that Lilith made to the daily special offer makes it so you can buy this bundle for $3. $3. Making it probably the second best, if not the best bundle per dollar for gold heads in this game. Full stop. And the reason for that is because you have the potential for each chest to get up to 9 gold heads, 10 gold heads. So you could get 30 gold heads for $3. That's not really what's going to happen, but I have pulled 8. I have pulled 13. So it's possible. So now you have to buy dailies. So that makes it pretty easy. That's $3 times 30, that's another $90 a month. There's your dolphins. So it gets very easy to spend on Rise of Kingdoms. I think we're all probably aware of that. And if you're playing KVK, you're buying pop-ups. I'd say low spenders to mid spenders, dolphins are probably buying pop-ups. I think the one difference is the dolphins are probably buying maybe 1 Mountain Warfare, whereas whales are buying all the mountain warfares. And low spenders maybe just buy the $5 bundle for the crystal. I think this is probably what low spenders are buying, crystal mine work speed. So there's lots of really interesting nuances to this, but I took it a step further because I wanted to get to the root of the spending thing. Rise of Kingdoms actually has really good retention. So someone actually wrote a report talking all about Rise of Kingdoms, and they said that we retain people pretty well. After day one, 41% of players come back. After 7 days, 20% of players keep playing. And 30 days later, 9% of players are retained, which is pretty good. Rise of Kingdoms gets over 500,000 downloads every month, which means that the game is constantly bringing in new players and thus new money. In fact, Rise of Kingdoms is a $1 billion game if you didn't know that. I actually recently found that out. But what this means is that there's probably, assuming there's 100 billion downloads of the game, there's probably about 5 million players that have been playing for over a year. Maybe a little bit less. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. But if that's the case, this is the breakdown if we assume that there are 9 million total players, using that 9%, of how all of you guys fit into buckets. 27% of you, 2.4 million, are free to play. 4.23 million of you are low spenders. 1.9 million of you are mid spenders. And 360,000 of you are whales or Krakens, presumably whales. That feels really high to me. What do you guys think? But this was just a fun data exercise where I was trying to figure out what are the Rise of Kingdoms community comprised of. So this was a really interesting video. I broke down how we went through and what we spend on. And what I think is really interesting is if you take a look at Krakens, they have to be buying almost all of these bundles, and they have to be getting the gold bundles of them, which if you do that, you could very easily be spending $250 per bundle, because it's actually even more. Because you start with 5, then you get to 10, then you get to 20, then you get to 50, then you get 100, and sometimes you get 3 of those 100 bundles. So it's very easy to spend in Rise of Kingdoms. Let me know in the comment section, do you think that this video did justice to how we spend in Rise of Kingdoms? And tell me how you spend, and if you agree with my breakdown of how we spend and what you are as a spender versus what ChatGPT said here. Again, I said low spenders probably spend between $1 and $50 a month. Dolphins probably spend $50 to $150, and then whales spend $150 to $1,000, and Krakens spend over $1,000 a month. I hope that you guys have enjoyed. If you haven't already, do hit that subscribe button right over there, bottom right-hand corner, and drop a like on the video if you've enjoyed. Thank you all. Shappy out.